Welcome to episode 10 of Momentous Doge, where I run back into the arms of the old faithful brewer of the sea, Corsair, and promptly discover that I've forgotten how to play Corsair. So that happens. I think Ballista here is a pretty average at best matchup for Corsair, so I'm going to lean on that for the obvious reason I lost. We have some 10 picking here because it's kind of relevant to this game. We open up, and it's obviously Ballista versus Corsair. We both only have one mascot. I picked the old faithfuls, Kraken and Siren here early. Dave's early picks don't give anything away either. But here I'm sort of stumped for a little while, thinking about there's two possible routes I can go down. I can go the Hag and Sakana route, which gives me a bit more speed, a bit more goal potential, but those two models are actually quite vulnerable to Ballista team's guns, and I'm not sure I can sort of play a Corsair game that's beaty enough to kill these engineers, while still keeping my guys from getting too many guys under a blast earth. Dave doesn't have to tell me if he's taking a velocity, which I would need, like a Hag and a Sakana to sort of go after kind of thing, to catch velocity if I want to score goals, until the last pick, so I have to pick quite early. This game I've gone with Kraken and Jack for the 4 Tough Hide Guys team, hoping to ensure a bit against the guns on the Engineers team, and sort of outlast the Engineers, which is a bit of a futile exercise. You may notice this game that we have a new clock at the top. Someone tell me if that's readable on the channel, because I'm not entirely sure it is, but it is a significant improvement for quality of life, which I will chime in on later. So, here Dave is kicking to me with Ballista. He's gone for a Colossus kick on the side. This is a trap, and I can see it coming, but I can do nothing about it. I just have to suck it up. So here I'm sort of thinking about Siren to pick up the ball, but I'm a little worried that Colossus might actually be able to kill Siren when she's too far away from Kraken. So I swap her for Jack, because I don't really care if I lose Jack. He is the least important guy on the team, and he sort of operates pretty fine on a wing anyway, so sort of just play where it lies. Dave gets a really good scatter here. His first one does go off, but his second one is pretty much the same thing but safer, and it requires an almost full run from Jack, so I can't actually kick back to one of my team. I have to sort of kick it to space, and while Jack does get the reroll, I can't get it to sort of curve the bullet and land on one of my players, unfortunately. So the ball is going to be sitting there in the open for at least one activation of Dave's team. Thankfully, I think it's reasonably safe from Colossus. If he were to pick this up with Colossus, he'd be kicking a space back to him, and then pretty much feeding me Colossus straight up. I'm not entirely sure that would be a dead Colossus, but it would mean I don't have to spend any influence to drag that turn, and that's a bit risky. I haven't allocated my influence for maximum beatings this turn, so I feel like it could have been safe. Instead, he's going to go for the charge in a Jack plan, pop him out of the cover, and start pushing him around. This is pretty reasonable. He's going to knock down Jack, and I am going to need to make some momentum to stand that Jack up, probably. So, I go through the usual motions of kicking the ball around. Tentacles, 2-6 kick, yo, here we go. Tentacles will hit, and this will start the cavalcade of, oh, these big guys have really shit kick stats. You know that? That's funny. Because I forgot that. That's fine. Dave is sort of adopting a traditional sort of stand behind the boxes, hope you can stop the drags plan here, keeping his guys sort of out of my threats. We're sort of kicking it around. You can see Dave laughing here a bit. Life is not easy when you sort of start to stuff up the turn one, but you know, what are you going to do? So here, Kraken kicks to Corsair. Kraken kicks to Corsair? Yeah, I think Kraken kicks to Corsair. And we take the dodge. This is sort of important because I need a double kick dodge to start going and getting one of his guys. Dave here is going to Blast Earth Jack just in case he's not going to get that push off. He wants to start chipping in and he doesn't want to get too close to my actual beta team. So he's going to put Ratchet outside of Corsair range and make me dodge in. He can't really stay out of dodge and run and drag range. So he's just going to make me spend and kick dodge, which is fine. I sort of spend way too much time here dicking around thinking about exactly where I want to put Corsair for the drag angles. This kind of thing is something that gets a lot faster when you're practiced with a captain. But as we know, I am not practiced with anything because I just play different things every time because I'm a numpty. Beef of the CEO. Here we go. So, we drag in Ratchet. We do the usual mom to push, mom to push, mom to push. I end up taking mom to push here instead of the knockdown a lot. I'm not sure that's good or bad. But I sort of felt like I wanted to get the damage on while I could. If I only got like a couple of damage on Ratchet, a heal back to full would sort of wipe out all of the punching I did. This is sort of grease the wheels with Corsair kind of stuff that would be a lot easier if I actually knew what I was doing. But I'm bad, kids. So, here we go. This is fun. The customary stack my dudes. The stacks on Corsair's team appear to be quite high, and not so much on Ballista. Ballista here, I think this is a turning point in the game where Ballista could have done, made some big plays that weren't this, but instead he goes into Jack. And I don't think this is incorrect, necessarily. He takes Jack off the board before I can heal him, which is sort of a byproduct of me trying to contest the last turn's race instead of heal Jack. I feel like that bit where Jack died was pretty bad, particularly that he died with Ballista having enough influence left to deadbolt the octopus, which is what you see the ball left on the ground here. This is pretty harsh for me. Instead of being able to start cracking in with some work this activation, I end up having to stand up the octopus with my momentum and pick up the ball. Here I miss the 2s for the blind on Colossus. That's going to really hurt me in this turn. I think I bumped that camera. You can't really see that clock anymore, can you? Tell me if you could see that clock before I bumped it. Sort of being able to read the numbers would be nice. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So, Octopus fell the blind, and we are in some shit. We are in some shit here. This is plan Corsair gets greedy and goes for maximum value. This activation will be a schmozzle that drains my time until the end of eternity. It's not quite like Schlegel bad Corsair play, but it's pretty bad. Here I'm carving through Ratchet, pulling him with the Mom 2 pushes, and hoping to drag Ballista in for Avarice and Greed to finish him off next activation, now that Ballista's gone. Spoilers, that doesn't go so well, because the last attack, I end up, instead of having Ratchet on 1 and dragging Ballista in, because I didn't take the drag the attack before, I end up with Ratchet on dead and no drag for Ballista, which is not the value I wanted. I've also only put 1 on Kraken, which means I can't back up drag. This is sort of getting trapped into Corsair allocation where I feel like I need to give 4 to Avarice and Greed if I'm going to get any real work out of them, especially against a tough hide team. Avarice and Greed are the only way I'm killing things, but oof, boy, it's just not the value I'm used to. Here, Hoist is going for the Destructive Impulse of Locust. Locust is going to turn out to be some pretty reasonable tech this game. While I thought Dave was going to go for the double stoic Fort Awesome, he sort of didn't start the game that way. And he seems to be just going later into the game, using Locust and Colossus as people that Corsair can't drag profitably. Which is, I suppose that's a plan. If he hadn't oopsied Ratchet on turn 1, I think it might be going pretty well, actually. But sadly, that is not the case. Here, Colossus is going to show us some magic. He's just going to go around there, just be a bit of a dick. Colossus being 2-inch reach and starting some crowd outs here is going to sort of change the shape of this scrum. I'm not a big fan. We end up at the end of this sort of clusterfuck with me sort of staring at that Hoist up at the top and really praying he doesn't walk down into Corsair and force me to schlegel myself, because I am very afraid of doing that on camera now. So, at the end of all of this garbage, I'm not feeling great about my position. I don't really have a target for Corsair. I have Ratchet behind a forest. I have Hoist, Locust, and Colossus, who are all bad to drag. And then I have Ballista. So that's great. This is great. So here I'm moving Corsair up to a point where I can drag Ballista in, because I am obsessed with dragging. Corsair is picking up that ball that had been scattered off the octopus, I believe. Couldn't break close control with Colossus. 4s and 1s proved to be a bit elusive with the RNG. And it's scattered so that I had to pick it up with Corsair, which is fine. I got the first activation, otherwise I'd be pretty much hosed. This play where I drag Ballista in with Corsair and then punch him into Avarice and Greed feels like it might have been a bit of a sketchy decision, because all I've allowed him to do is stand up Ballista and start punching things. Avarice and Greed are pretty much fine to walk into Ballista. I didn't really need to give him the opportunity to not take the knockdown on the first swing with Ballista. That's just a bit of bad play, I think. He does break close control this activation, I believe. And that's going to turn out to be pretty relevant later in the turn. You see, I've remembered this close control used token. So here, Avarice and Greed sort of just getting deadbolted by Ballista, and then in their activation they're just going to get up and start working on Ballista. But even with a wrap, Avarice and Greed are only doing 4 damage to Ballista each swing, and you only get 3 swings. So if Ballista double heals every turn, they're doing 4 damage a turn, and it's going to take a long time to get through Ballista. It's one of those things where sneakily most of this team is not accessible. The 2 armor on Locust and Colossus are actually really awkward to try and grind through, because functionally disables you from wrapping deeper than the 1 unless you get like the greatest setups ever. This might be a point where Gutter starts to look pretty good to cut through armor, but I don't think Gutter is actually able to kill these tough hide dorks. There's just too many boxes, and when you're doing 2 at a time, even with scything blows, that's just rough. So here, Hoist is going to come in with the close control broken. He's going to hit me, I'm going to tackle back, and then he's going to tackle back. Even Corsair on a box is not good enough. Not stopping Hoist. Not stopping Hoist. So here Kraken is going to walk into Ballista and release the Kraken twice. Momentous 2 is a pretty average result when he just left Ballista knocked down and I don't want to push him. If I thought that would have gotten him close enough to the edge, I might have gone for the release the Kraken and then the charge and double push with Avarice to take him off, but he's just a bit out. I was sort of eyeballing it. I didn't want to like take it completely off. I didn't want to let Dave sort of know that that was a thing that I was thinking about, just in case it was relevant later, but it won't be. You know, never get my opportunities. So here, Colossus gets his unexpected arrival. It's a pretty average one. Corsair's on the box, so all it really does is push Avarice back, and he pushes Kraken back to the burrow marker. Doesn't push him over it. I was a bit iffy about this play, where I put Siren into the middle of all his guys. Colossus and Ballista, she's a 5-1 against. So I sort of felt she might be a bit safe there, but I'm always worried about Hoist. She's only got 10 boxes. If the dice sort of RNG high, this could get ropey very fast. So here, Mother's just going in. She puts a nest down for Hoist to jump and take a goal next turn. Dave is up 2 here, so this is reasonably likely. I have a bit of a think about whether I want to spend any momentum here, but I sort of, if I win that roll, this starts to look really good for me. So I sort of take my gamble, and I lose, but that's not the end of the world here, I think. We're on 3-2. I lost Tentacles and Jack, and he's lost Ratchet. So this is sort of looking pretty evens. He's going to get this first activation goal here, but I'm sort of sneakily like, we'll see what Jack can do. I put the sneaky 1 influence on Jack, and then proceed to shit the bed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Dave's not an idiot, so he goes for it with Hoist first. He dirtles and does some push dodging and shit to make some momentum, and dirtles into tap-in range, which is pretty expected. He stays out of Jack's melee, which is, you know, understandable. He's not a moron. So we tap in the goal with Hoist, and the way I've sort of moved Jack last turn to guard, you know, just stand near the goal, take that cover so he might have a good counterattack. Has left me with a pretty bad kick out for the ball. I really do not want to kick it near that scrum, and I need it sort of on my player so Mother doesn't just take it here. She could very easily burrow to that nest, drop a nest, and kick it to one of his players, and that would be a bit of a nightmare for me, I think. I'm now down 4 points, and if I don't have the ball to make those 4 points immediately accessible to me, I feel like this game might spiral out of control very quickly. So I have to go with Tentacles and pick it up, which is okay because Tentacles has close control. This is sort of a bit of a muddle here. Everson Greed just hoeing in again, and I'm sort of really realizing that tough hide is making life hard for Corsair. Like, neither of us can really kill models, but because I started the scrum off earlier, the only thing that's making it close here is that I sort of screwed up and gave him Jack. What I don't love here is how I've left the octopus still exposed to Mother. So I don't have to, but I feel like I need to stance this charge. So burrows, and I think he takes the punch on Kraken and then charges. I could not stance here and just hope he doesn't wrap. But I feel like that's getting a bit risky. Hoist is still in tap-in range, so things could go bad. The 5-1 prevents him from wrapping, so that's fine. I go with Corsair and start deploying the beats. This is a pretty average turn for Corsair, to be honest. I'm not really achieving anything. We do kill Ballista, I believe, in this activation, and we sort of just tickle Colossus with the 1 influence we have left over. It's not ideal. I'm now down functionally all of my influence for the turn. I haven't really achieved anything. I'm only up like 3 on the momentum race, and he still has influence that is going to be productive, whereas I've got influence that's just sort of going to durdle. That locus influence could put him back to quite close to parity, whereas I am going to sort of need to spend for that Jack influence. It's not like the end of the world, but, you know, could be better, I think. Here we go for the unexpected arrival of Colossus again. This one's much better. This one pushes Corsair right up the top and pushes Avarice back. So Colossus follows up Avarice and Greed and is sort of engaging all 3 of my dudes now. I think he's just trying to tie them down. Clocks are getting very low at this point, and being on 4 to 7, I sort of need to make some big plays. And Dave is just trying to ensure that those big plays do not happen. So, Locus goes into Corsair, and I go with ramming speed on Jack, and a push, and a heroic, to push Hoist within 3 of the edge. I am up on the momentum race by 1 here. Not entirely happy with the way that turn went, but we've sort of come back in a manner of speaking. So here, I screw up royally with Jack again. I had forgotten that Jack does not have a momentous result on 1. In fact, because Corsair has Tough Hide, he doesn't have any results on 1. So, I charge Hoist instead of walking and punching, because 4-1 is a thing, but he stances to 5-1, and RNG just kills me. Like, kills me. I get no hits, and so do absolutely nothing, and Colossus durdles into range of tentacles. So here I am in some serious shit. I need to get rid of that ball very quickly. Colossus unexpected arrivals Jack. I think this is okay, but I would have... I think he's trying to push Jack into where Hoist can kick him off the table. But he didn't give Hoist any influence, so that's going to have to be a next turn plan. Here I really need to get rid of that ball, but I sort of go into the tank and drown a bit. So it's just not great. Yeah, it's just not great at all. Mother sort of does some garbage, but doesn't really get anywhere. So Tentacles is going to go and he's going to kick the ball. I could get to space because Avarice and Greed are knocked down here. If Avarice and Greed was standing up, or I could afford to give up the momentum race and just let Jack die. That might not be so bad, but as it is, it's pretty ropey. I have to like sort of leave it in the middle here. I have a reroll, but I don't want to put it back into range of Ballista. So here, Locust takes the remote control kick, but it snaps the box on the way past, and Siren goes and picks it up, which is pretty average. Kraken Dirtles, I'm sort of just like in the end clock mode here, and not really thinking. I'm just trying to swarm Locust for that last kill. We can push Hoist off, kill Locust, and score. We've dropped the ball to Corsair to enable the score. So turn ends. This is pretty frantic. We're getting down quite low here. I'm on almost no time. Ep4 to Jack, because I get to go first again, and let's just hope Jack can redeem himself. We're ramming speed with Jack, and then just to get Hoist out so he can't counter me. We're ramming speed him, roll a couple of times, we get a momentum off one of them, and we punch him off the table with the heroic. So Colossus goes, tries to do the same to Jack, but Jack is millimeters away from the edge when he's finished. So lucky me, I guess. Lucky me. I'm on 6. Here, Corsair goes. Corsair goes and tries to kill Locust. Somewhere here, I'm going to get to the point where I trigger reanimate on Locust, and then I promptly fail to hit the 3 to kill him next time, even with 2 gangs. So I have to swing again to kill him, and then I run Corsair out of 3 range of all of his guys, but realise that I've clocked out while doing Corsair's activation, and I have too many activations left to go round to the next turn. So that's the end of my game. I sort of shake hands with Dave. All he has to do, he's on like 17 seconds at this point, but all he has to do is click back to me a couple of times, just spend no time on his activations, and I will lose. So yeah, clock is the number 1 win condition in Guildball, guys. Riker was right. Dave pulling the Riker Maneuver from the start and out-grinding Corsair. This really shows how, in a tight matchup, someone who's practiced with a guild is definitely going to pull away quite quickly from someone who is rusty as fuck. Schlegel me, guys.